Hey there, crew. Today we're going to focus on the North Pole and the South Pole. The North Pole can also be called the Arctic, and the South Pole can also be called Antarctica. And we're going to remember which is which by doing two drawings. So the North Pole, a creature you can find in the North Pole, is a polar bear, and a creature you can find in the South Pole, Antarctica, is a pinguino, a penguin. So we are going to arrange our paper so that the polar bear is at the top, the North Pole, and the penguin's at the bottom, the South Pole. So here we go. You're going to need two pieces of paper, one for your North Pole polar bear and one for your South Pole pinguino. Let's do the North Pole first. So on your piece of paper, we're going to do a little directed drawing of a polar bear, and then you can add things in the background too. So, first of all, at the bottom of your paper, we're going to make two hills, and those are going to be the front paws of the polar bear. So a hill, in this instance, is kind of like a half circle. So there's half of a circle, and maybe this is the bottom half, flipped upside down. So two half circles at the bottom of my paper are the front paws, and we're going to separate the toes with three lines like this, so it looks like the little toes or the little paws of the polar bear. So I'll do it on this side too. Uno, dos, tres. Uno, dos, tres. 3 lines each paw. All right. Now we're going to make a large circle above those paws. So it's more of an oval, I guess, than a circle. Oval's a stretched out circle, you may remember. And then inside that circle, near the bottom of that circle, I'm going to make another circle or oval. I guess this one's more of a circle. This is going to be the snout of our polar bear, so it's going to look like it's coming forward. We're going to get a nose. You can make the nose of your polar bear an oval or a circle or even a heart if you want, or really any shape you want. I'm going to go with a rounded triangle that's a little upside down. So I'm going to start with a curved line like that, and then I'm going to round the corner and go down, round the corner and go up. And it's kind of a rounded triangle. I'm going to do a little shiny spot in the nose and then fill it in. You can make it whatever color you want. I'm going to go with black because that's a little more realistic. They have a black nose. Actually, did you know underneath the polar bear's white fur is black skin? That black skin on the polar bear absorbs any heat or that is up there at the North Pole so that it can stay warm. The white fur helps it stay camouflaged with the icy snow, and then the black skin underneath absorbs any heat that it can, and that absorbing of heat keeps them happy, so we'll just add a little smile on our polar bear. Boom. Alright, let's get 2 eyeballs. So we'll go with round circles for eyes. We're going to have 2, 1 on each side. And then to do the bright spot of the eye, let's get a white circle up in the top right corner, and then I'll fill in the big part black there. And you can add eyelashes or eyebrows or whatever you want. I might go with some eyebrows. Whatever works for you. Alright. Next we're going to get some ears attached to the top of that head. Half circles. 1 on each side. So half circles is kind of the theme. We did it for the paws, now the ears, and then we're going to put another half circle inside for like the inside of his ear. Boom. Alright. Now we're going to get his big body. It's going to look like he's kind of curled up. So we're going to do a big arc, or like the biggest half circle you've ever made, going around from this paw, around his head, to the other paw. So here I go. I arc around and around and around, and stop at the paw. Boom. Alright, so it looks like our polar bear's huddled up. He's trying to stay warm. And we're going to get a little tail with some texture over on that side. You could do it on this side if you want, but technically polar bears just have one tail, so try to stick to one. And guess what? That's kind of a half circle too. Alright, in the background, if you want, you can add some icy mountains, or you could just leave the sky, some snowbanks. It's really up to you. You could have another little polar bear peeking out. Maybe he's hanging over the side right here. How cute. Alright, also, I'm going to add a little North Pole symbol next to our polar bear here. It's kind of a post with that red and white candy cane stripe action. You don't have to add it, but if you want to, you can. That kind of remind you, oh yeah, polar bears, North Pole. So, we just drew a little polar bear. You can pause to catch up and add more details if you want to. Otherwise, grab your other paper and let's draw a pinguino, a penguin. So I'm going to put polar bear off to the side. I'm going to start my pinguino now. So for the pinguino, we are going to start with the eyeballs. So in the middle of your paper, you can make 2 circles. 1, 2. Alright, this time, let's have even more sparkle in the eye. We'll add a little white circle at the top right and bottom left. So you could just add 2 little white circles in your eyes and then fill in the rest black. So the shine is still there in the eye of your pinguino, just like we did in a polar bear. Alright, now in between the eyes, we're not going to have a snout like the polar bear did. We're going to have a beak because it's a bird, a penguin. And actually, penguins are a flightless bird. They don't fly, even though they kind of have wings and flippers. They swim under the water. So we're going to do a curve like a upside down U, very wide upside down U. And then we're going to, kind of like how I did a rounded triangle for the nose of the polar bear, I'm going to do a rounded triangle for the beak of the pinguino. Alright, next we're going to do an arc with a bump, almost like the letter M, starting on the left side here, go up, peak, over, stop. So kind of watch what I do. Up, peak, over, stop. Doesn't that kind of look like the letter M? Boom. Alright, now we're going to connect kind of with a half oval or egg shape from the start of my arc to the end over here. So I'm going to come under, and under starts with the letter U, so it makes sense it looks like the letter U. And then we're going to almost trace around the outside, like so. We're going to make the exact same shape, like that. Ooh, I didn't really connect it very well, so there we go. And then you can fill that in black, because penguins, it almost looks like they're wearing a tuxedo. I'm not going to fill it in all the way. You get the idea. Now we're going to add the flippers, and then if you want, you can even add a little hairdo. I'll do a little spiky hairdo, kind of like mine, right there on top. You can do whatever hairdo you want. You could even add a hat or any other accessory that your heart desires. The flippers that they swim with kind of look like wings. They also kind of look like triangles, so you can have them going whatever way you want. I might have one triangle flipper going down, one triangle flipper going up. And again, you could fill those in black, just like a real pinguino. For the feet, they're going to have webbed feet that are kind of got 3 toes. So it's going to be like the letter W with a extra little triangle. So there's like the W, but then I'm going to go one more so it has 3 toes. There's my W, and then I'll go one more for a 3rd toe. And if you want, you could do a little texture line like that. Alright. Let's have our little pinguino friend floating on a block of ice in Antarctica. So you can make kind of whatever shape you want. I'm going to have some jagged edges. So a funky block of ice like that. And to make it look a little three-dimensional, like it's floating in the water and up above the surface of the water, we're going to add some lines that come down from those points, and I think that'll make it really look three-dimensional, like it's floating in the water. So at each point of my jagged, weird shape, I'm going to just put a line down like this. It's going to look like it's floating in the water. Some of these lines are vertical, some are kind of diagonal. But maybe you would see like some shadow or some texture lines coming down. Boom. Kind of like that. And maybe there's some floating icebergs out here as well. You could make as many as you want. You don't have to make yours look like mine. And maybe in the water there's a little penguin friend waving. I like it. Maybe I'll have another little floating iceberg here. Boom. So we have a polar bear. We have a pinguino, little drawings. You can make yours look different than mine. I just wanted to show you kind of a way to use simple lines and shapes to create a polar bear and a pinguino. And now, if you know directions, like on a map, north is always pointing to the top, south is always pointing to the bottom, and then you also have directions east this way and west that way. So if I arrange them, I would have the polar bear on top like the north, the penguin on the bottom like the south. So if I was to make a compass rose, is what it's called on a map. So a compass rose has an arrow going to the top, to the bottom, to the right, and to the left. And sometimes there's fancy shapes on it to make it more interesting. You could design a compass rose if you want. You don't have to. I'll show you a final copy version in a little bit. But north is always at the top. So you could practice writing the word north, or you could just symbolize north with the letter N for north. So some of you might even have an N in your name. You know how to make an N. And then the bottom arrow is south. Do you know what south starts with? An S. So you could just make an S if you wanted. Then the direction on a map that's the right side over here is east. East starts with an E. So you could just make a big capital E. And then west over here, west, starts with a W. So you could do a big capital W for west if you want. But we're really focusing in on the North Pole and the South Pole. So the North Pole, polar bears, the South Pole, penguins. Or the North Pole is also called the Arctic. And the South Pole is also called Antarctica. And what do those both start with? A for Arctic, A for Antarctica. Very cool. So, if you want, you could glue your penguin and polar bear to a black paper or any color paper. I chose black. You could do any color paper you want. I chose a black one just because I think they stand out really, really well. So I also colored. I used some markers. You could use crayons, colored pencils, or leave it black and white. It's up to you. So you'll see I put the polar bear on top to symbolize the North and the North Pole, the Arctic. And then I put the penguin on the bottom to symbolize the South Pole, Antarctica. And then I also made it like a compass rose with an arrow going up to north, down to south, right to east, left to west. So you can think of it as a map, directions. If you looked at image of the globe, the entire world, you would see a compass rose that gives you your 4 main directions. And then also you might even be able to spot Antarctica at the bottom and the Arctic at the very tip top of the globe. So I challenge you to not only create a polar bear and a penguin, but to also work on directions and maybe even look at a map of the world and see if you can find at the very tip top the North Pole and the very tip bottom the South Pole. And maybe you'll even spot a polar bear or a penguin there. So enjoy your drawing and learning. And as always, I can't wait to see what you come up with yourself. I want you to be creative and unique and different from Mr. Gove. Adios, amigos.